Good day, gentlemen. There is this dangerous and silent trap that most, if not all, driven and successful men fall into at least once in their relationship, but usually multiple times. And I want to help you by not just telling you what this trap is and warning you about it, but also by telling you how you can get out of it once you're in it. If you don't know who I am, my name is Benny, and for the last 9 years I've been obsessed with learning everything there is about relationships because honestly I really needed to. And now I've helped a ton of men build superior relationships through these videos and through my mentorship. But the harsh reality is that even after being in my own relationship for over 7 years now, I fell into this trap again last year. I won't waste your time here. So the trap is this. It's losing clarity, direction, and purpose in our own lives, and therefore living our women's lives instead of our own. And this leads to a whole host of problems. And no, this is not some red pill bullshit immature advice, because actually the people who lean towards the red pill, who lean towards this immaturity, this just egotism, they actually fell into this trap at one point in their life, and that led them to where they are now. And we need to avoid that because, let's be honest, you and me, we want to go beyond that. We want to be more mature than that. Oh, and by the way, we brought the big gloves today. We brought the skiing gloves because it's even colder than last time, even though the sun is out. It's freezing right now. My nose is already basically frozen. But yeah, we're going to do this anyway. This trap is especially dangerous for us driven and successful men because we don't want to admit this to ourselves. And I'm gonna lead you with honesty and humility throughout this video, and I hope you can put your ego to the side as well, because that's gonna help you massively here. Look man, I honestly lost my path last year because I achieved the highest goal that I've had for myself for the 6 years prior to that, and once I've achieved that, I could enjoy that for a couple months, but then I felt lost. I felt directionless. And this led to a whole host of problems, not just with myself, but also in my relationship. For example, my girlfriend, she started not trusting my direction, not trusting my decisions. And honestly, fair enough, because I didn't trust my own decisions. I didn't trust my own direction. Also, most couples in times like this, they experience a loss of sexual desire for each other, which again, then of course has second order and third order consequences, right? Makes you resent each other, all that stuff. And also, I simply started questioning my worth as a man and as her partner as well, because I felt incapable of leading my own life. I felt incapable of making even small decisions. And that really tackled my self-worth in a big way. But the most significant and most vicious problem that this brings with it is something that sneaks up on men and on couples silently. They only notice this when they're in the middle of it. That counts for all the men that I've worked with who have experienced this, and it counts for me as well. Before I can explain this problem properly, I need to give you a bit more context, a bit more input for you to fully understand this. So, I don't know about you, but when I have no goals to chase, no purpose to follow, I feel either restless and annoyed at myself and at life, at the world, or simply tired as hell. Because, well, my body doesn't need any energy to achieve a goal because there is no goal, and our bodies only give us as much energy as we need to achieve our goals. Our body only produces as much testosterone as it needs to achieve a goal we have set for ourselves. So if there is no goal, there is no drive. And when that happened last year, the main thing that leads to this vicious problem snuck up silently on me and my girlfriend. Old patterns emerged in me where I subconsciously felt like if I ever say no to her, it will lead to conflict. And I was too emotionally drained and mentally drained and physically drained to be able to deal with conflict. Once I became aware of this, it was honestly already a whole downward spiral. And of course, you might ask, hey, Benny, why is saying no and setting certain boundaries even important in a relationship? It might lead to conflict. That's a genuine concern, right? And it might lead to disconnection. Well, yes, but let me break this down for you. Firstly, let me ask you this. How could she ever trust your yes if you never say no to her. Look, it's normal for partners to want to do different things at certain times, and that's completely okay. Let's say my girl wants to go to the mountains, wants to do a big 4 or 5 hour hike, but I just want to work that day, even though I like hiking. The simple truth is, if two partners always agree on everything, then at least one of them is lying. Because two people who are different can never agree on everything. That's just not possible. And so if I say yes to going on this hike with my girl, when really I just want to stay at home and work, then two things are gonna happen. I can't do it like, okay, I can do it too like this. This works. What happens is, first of all, I will resent myself because I don't want to be on that hike. And I will resent her because it feels like she convinced me to go on this hike, even though she didn't, right? Even though I did, I made that decision. But then also, and this is even more important, she will feel my lack of integrity. She will feel that I didn't make that decision from honesty and integrity, but rather to please her. And she can't trust me like that. Let me be very clear here. Saying no might lead to short-term conflict. She might not like when I say no to her. But in the long run, she can trust me and love me much more when I say no if I want to say no. But not only can she see that you're not being honest, and so she loses trust in your word, in your direction, in your structure, but also when you do spend that time with her, what happens very quickly is you're not actually there. You're physically there, but mentally and emotionally, you're not there. When I go on this hike with my girl, I'm thinking about my work. I'm thinking about the stuff that I haven't done yet, which is what I wanted to do, right? And she will feel that. And brother, this is such a simple principle, but so many men need to learn this, man. 1 hour of uninterrupted, undistracted time together with her will fill her heart so much more than 10 hours of mildly distracted time. So whenever you say to her, sounds great, honey, whatever you want, even though you and her know that deep down you want to do something else, is not just dishonest and cowardly, it's also the exact opposite of being loving and showing up as a mature, loving, leading man in your relationship. Because you're trading short-term potential pain from short-term conflict when you say no to her for long-term resentment on both ends and a loss of love and a loss of trust on both ends. And that's a shit trade that you're making simply because it's more comfortable in the short term. Don't make that trade. It's a shit deal. Us ambitious men, we get into this situation because we feel directionless and purposeless, because that leads to us not knowing what we want. And we damn sure don't want to sit with this glooming sense that we don't know where our life is heading, because that's not us. We're always in control. We're always on our shit. So when we're in this chapter and she makes a suggestion, we rationalize saying yes, because that means, at least we think, she's gonna be happy because she does whatever she wants to do, and we get to escape this glooming sense that we don't know where our life is heading and that we feel worthless. When we're in this situation where we feel directionless and purposeless, we feel like shit and we blame it on ourselves because we think, fuck man, this happened to me. This doesn't happen to anyone else. This isn't normal. We feel so out of alignment. But here's the thing. This is a very, very normal thing. Of course, maybe when you got into your relationship, you were locked in. You were on your shit, and then eventually that chapter ended. That's normal. Every chapter ends. Every purpose layer ends at one point. For me, like I said, it was me achieving this highest goal that I've had for the 6 years prior to achieving that. And I achieved that. And then I felt lost. Of course I did. And of course you feel lost. That's normal. Every man, every person goes through that at one point or another. Honestly, at many points throughout our lives. Now, let's be honest. You already know the solution to this deep down. It might just not be conscious yet. So let me make it conscious for you. The root problem is not that you disagree on certain things with her and then get into fights about that. The root problem is also not that you're not prioritizing yourself to then be able to give to her from a full cup instead of emptying your already pretty empty cup into her and resentment building because of that. The root problem, and you need to understand this before I give you the solution to this, is that you don't have direction, and it destroys your self-image, it makes you feel like shit, it makes you feel like less of a man, and it affects her as well. One of the people that I got insane value from when it comes to relationships is Dr. Robert Glover, and he made this very simple framework of what makes an attractive man, and I say this makes a trustworthy man. Number one, he's comfortable in his own skin. Number two, he knows where he's going in life. And we'll do this like this. Number three, he has fun while he's going there. And I had very little of all of those last year. And for most couples, for most men, this leads to their women feeling disconnected, feeling less attracted, not being able to trust their men, resenting their men. Fucking hell. What was that? I don't know. All of that stuff and much more, all the problems that we mentioned in this video. And of course, these are linked together. When you have direction in life and you have fun pursuing that direction, you're way more comfortable in your own skin. And when you're more comfortable in your own skin, and this is the solution, in a second I'll tell you this exactly. When you're comfortable in your own skin, you find direction again. Now, the solution to this is to be able to sit with this uncertainty, to sit with this pain. This is why I mentioned being comfortable in your own skin, because a man who's mature enough to be comfortable in his own skin, he can be kind to himself even in times where he's uncertain, even in times where he feels directionless, even in times where the world kind of shows him that he's not needed, that he's useless. He can still do that. Brother, you simply won't figure out what to do with your own life by watching other people live theirs, scrolling on social media. You will find direction in your own life by lying down on the floor for an hour and simply thinking without any distractions. Of course, I'm speaking metaphorically here. 1 hour of lying down on the floor won't solve all your life's problems, but the principle stands. Even David Deida writes about this in his book, The Way of the Superior Man, where he talks about how boredom and silent alone time is the way to find your next purpose. And for me personally, last year, once I was finally able to admit to myself that I don't have a purpose right now, that I feel directionless, that I feel like shit, I went on a 2-week solo trip alone. Right? Completely alone for 2 weeks in a place that I have barely ever been in before. And I did nothing apart from eating and sleeping and reading and journaling and surfing, to be fair. I didn't really talk to anyone for 2 weeks. I just simply sat with my own thoughts. I meditated for hours every day. And of course, not everyone has that comfort of taking 2 weeks off randomly, whatever. This is the great thing about having my own business, right? I can just do that. But brother, something along those lines. You don't have to go this drastic. For me, this was, like I said, a big thing. I achieved a 6-year goal and then felt directionless. For you, it probably doesn't take that much, but being comfortable in that uncomfortable silence where your mind tells you that you're worthless, that you're a piece of shit, that you don't have direction, that you can't even lead your own life. So how will you ever lead your woman's life? Sitting in that, that's the solution. Because that's where finally your mind can work through those thoughts, can block those thoughts out, not block them out, sorry, can work through those thoughts, and through that let those thoughts go. And then those deeper thoughts, those deeper solutions can finally emerge. It's this old, very simple principle. What you resist persists. Those thoughts, that pain, that discomfort, that lack of clarity that you're resisting right now will persist until you tackle it, until you sit in that discomfort, until you tackle those negative thoughts. They will persist. It's like a child who's shouting and crying. That's what's going on in your mind right now. Shouting and crying and whatever else. And what does that child want? It wants attention. And when the parents give that child that attention, the child stops crying, stops shouting. Same thing is true for your mind. When you give your mind that attention, in that sense, your inner child, you give that your attention, the child will stop crying and will finally give you exactly the solution that you needed. But honestly, whether you are in this state of limbo and directionlessness or not, being able and learning to say no and to set healthy boundaries is important in either of those situations, because setting healthy boundaries builds trust, builds connection, builds attraction, instead of disrupting it as most people think. The simple truth is, you and her, you're two different people. And so that means that aspects of your life will be done together and other aspects will be done separately. And when you do that, polarity is kept alive, meaning sexual attraction is kept alive. Trust is kept alive, because you can both see that the other person is leading their life with integrity, so you trust them, and also you trust yourself because you can see that you trust your own life with integrity. What did I just say? That you trust your own life with integrity. Brother, my mind is confused right now. You can see that you lead your own life with integrity. That's what I meant, right? And then also, it leads to connection. It leads to proper intimacy, because you're giving to each other from a full cup. You're filling up your own cup first, not to have a full cup, but to be able to fill the other person's cup from your overflowing cup. This is why I can make these videos, right? Because my cup in terms of relationships is flowing over. This is why I can give the water that's overflowing from my cup to you, so that you can fill your own cup in your own relationship. I couldn't do that if my relationship was going like shit and my cup was basically empty. Same thing is true for you. You can't give to your partner from love, or at least it's very difficult, if you don't have a full cup yourself. And you can't have a full cup without learning to set healthy boundaries. Look, brother, I don't want to make this video unbearably long for you, but I want you to develop this skill of setting healthy boundaries with your woman in the right way, the way that has completely changed my own relationship. So I recently made this video for you right here, because I'll be honest with you, it's not your relationship that is holding you back from achieving your goals in life. It is your fear of setting healthy boundaries with her and your lack of skill in setting healthy boundaries with her. Boundaries that lead to more connection, not less. So go watch this video right now, apply what you learned today. I'll get the fuck out of here because it's very cold, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.